Bet you can guess what my two favorite colors are by now. Um, I'm not just realizing it, but sometimes it just hits me that there's a lot of stuff in my closet that's black and pink. And very rarely do I have other colors. Blue, gray, yeah, those two, but mostly black and pink. It's my thing. So today we are going to be reading some stories from Tales from Tech Support. Three, short little stories that are, funny, and one is the one that I was talking about that was a doozy. Not in the length of the story, but in the ending of the story. Trust me, it is interesting. Okay, so first story. This one was posted by DEDOKTA. I'm not going to be brave enough to try to pronounce that. I'm sorry. So, title of the story. So where might I find the sun? In my previous job, I worked as a field service engineer maintaining ophthalmic devices. In this role, I needed to be an IT specialist, mechanic, furniture mover, and truck driver. For some reason, they found it very hard to get anyone with all the requisite skills to apply. I quite liked the job at a base level, but they were messing me over with the pay. So I left after the latest salary review wasn't at all to my liking. But that's another story. One day I was called out to repair an optical device at a hospital. The unit was a portable slit lamp, a handheld device used to examine the eye. Like most hospitals I visited, the biomedical department was tucked away in the bowels of the building, involving lots of long corridors and doorways to get through. This time I was escorted in because I'd never have found the place otherwise. They showed me to a bench with the offending device and I got to work. It was a pretty simple fix, just a loose internal lens that needed to be glued in place. The issue was that the glue we used required UV light to cure, and I didn't have a lamp with me. No problem, we usually just take the devices out into the sun for a minute, and the glue sets pretty quickly. I looked around. No windows. I looked down the hall. No windows. Excuse me, I know this is going to sound silly, but where might I find the sun? I was directed to the loading bay just down the hall and through a couple of doors. I gingerly carried my patient, being very careful not to bump the lens, which was positioned just right. I found the loading dock, but no sun. The hospital walls loomed upward, giving me only the smallest sliver of a sky. I could tell there was sunshine somewhere, but just not here. So I started walking, both hands keeping the device steady, while also looking out for trucks and whatnot. Eventually, I found a welcoming beam of sunlight calling out to me. I walked into it and lifted the slit lamp into its rays like I was presenting a chalice to the gods of fire. I stood there for a minute to ensure the job was done, trying to look casual and normal to the few people who passed me. But it's not easy to look normal in that situation, so I just stood there like an idiot until the job was done. I found my way back, finished the repair, and tested the unit. Everything worked and I packed up my stuff. Later that day, I went online and found a nice, powerful UV torch that would handle the job without me roaming the halls looking for the sun like some reverse vampire. I like this story just because not only is the person who wrote it a pretty decent writer, on top of that, it's just one of those silly things where it's just like having that one little tool that you totally forgot to bring with you is just like, it makes your job so much easier and keeps you from looking, kind of silly, holding up a lens to the sunlight like you're like you're making an offering or something. I like this story. Next story. So this next story comes from Pepper1009. The program changed the data. Years ago, I did programming and support for a system that had a lot of interconnected data. Users were constantly fat-fingering changes, so we put in auditing routines for the key tables. User, the software, changed this data from XXX to YYY. The reports are all wrong now. Me, looking at the audit tables. Actually, you changed the data from XXX to YYY on this screen on your desktop PC using your user ID yesterday at 10:14 a.m. Then you ran the report yourself at 10:22 a.m. See, here's the audit trail. And just so we're clear, the software doesn't change the data. You change the data, and my software tracks your changes. Those audit routines saved us a lot of grief, like the time a senior analyst in the user group deleted and updated thousands of rows of account data. At the same time, his manager was telling everyone to run their monthly reports. We tracked back to prove our software did exactly what it's supposed to do, whether the data was there or not. And the reports the analysts were supposed to pull and check their work, not one of them ran the reports. Oh yeah, we tracked that too. Now, I wanted to include this story just because a lot of times there are coworkers or customers who will make a little mistake and then try to blame it on the software or someone else. And I feel as though that these kind of people have been have been hounded for making mistakes and has never been told it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay. It matters how you handled the mistake you made. It's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. The way you handle it is what tells me what kind of person you are. Okay? Be truthful. Say, hey, I made an oopsie. How do we fix this? And we can get it done much quicker. If you're blaming it on this, that, and the third, and all these other things, it takes much longer to get to the root of the problem because they're searching in other places for the problem when the problem was originally you just made an oopsie. So you're extending your work, you're extending everybody else's work, and you're sending people on a wild goose chase. Not good. Be better. It's okay to make a mistake. Next story. So this is the last story, and I just wanted to say this is the one that had me laughing. It's extremely short, but in the end, okay, I'm just going to read it. So this is from user FFVII rules DOOD, and that's rules with a Z. The customer who didn't understand turning it off and on again. I work in tech support for a fairly large company, and I've had my fair share of bizarre calls, but this one really stuck with me. A customer calls in, and the first thing I notice is that they're clearly frustrated. I ask for details, and they explain that their computer is just frozen and nothing is working. I tell them as calmly as possible, no worries, let's start by rebooting the computer. Please hold the power button for 10 seconds to turn it off, and then turn it back on. There's a pause on the line. Customer, I don't know how to do that. Me, you don't know how to turn off your computer? Customer, no, I don't know where the power button is. I'm trying to stay professional at this point, so I walk them through it. I even ask if they can find the power button on the actual device. They respond that they don't see one. So I ask, can you look on the side or the back of the computer for a button or a logo? Customer, it doesn't have one. At this point, I'm a little confused, but I decide to walk them through the process anyway. I start asking if they see any lights on the device. They tell me no, nothing is lighting up. Then it hits me. I ask, are you sure you're working with a computer? Customer, well, no. I'm looking at my microwave. This person had been trying to reboot a microwave for 30 minutes, thinking it was their computer. After a long, awkward silence, I confirmed that microwaves don't have the same functionality as computers and recommended that they try restarting their actual computer instead. They were extremely apologetic, and I just couldn't stop laughing after I hung up. Never a dull moment in tech support, folks. Stay strong out there. And my goodness. It's still funny after the third time I've read it through, because, like, some of the stories I read it through just to make sure, like, not stumbling on the words, like, I have it in the back of my head what's coming up and things like that, but they were looking at their microwave. And, when it comes to tech support or phone support, we do get situations like this quite often where we are trying to assist a customer with a program or some kind of functionality with their service that uh, we're looking at what the app or the program should be saying and should be doing, or the computer or the device should be doing. And they're looking at something totally different, but we don't know that because it's over the phone. We can't see you. We can't see you. I'm so sorry. That's one of the things about phone support that can make it a little bit more difficult because, just we can't see things. So it gets a little difficult when it comes to helping people out over the phone in those situations. Sometimes we make it through, sometimes we say, hey, you might have to bring that device in person so that we can actually have someone look at what's going on and see what's wrong for you. Thank you for listening and or watching today. I really appreciate your watching my videos, and I appreciate any support. Please, please, please like and subscribe. My channel is still very little, but I love doing these videos, and I'm actually really having a lot of fun.